What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I posted a video on my TikTok a couple of days ago that absolutely blew up, and I really felt that I wanted to respond to a lot of the comments because, one, they were asked, and two, there was such an overwhelming amount of positivity response to this post that I absolutely had to respond to you all in a YouTube video, just because I'd be able to get to all the comments here. 341 comments, so here we go. This episode is going to be about the importance of self-defense and why you need to start learning self-defense, some form of it today, okay? I hope by the end of this video, this kind of lights a fire within you in order to go out and start doing some research and to understand why bodily autonomy and understanding how to protect yourself is one of the most important things that you can do for your quality of life. To give you a brief introduction into my self-defense background, I started wrestling when I was about 11. I went to a military academy with all guys school. We weren't a A-ranked school or anything, but we were able to compete against like AAA and 2A, 3A ranked schools, and we won quite a lot because of our discipline and our training ethics. I'm here to tell you, technique beats strength every time. And you need not look further than jiu-jitsu, okay? Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there's Japanese, there's all different forms of this jiu-jitsu. And I remember for wrestling, jiu-jitsu being one of the most baffling yet helpful fighting styles that I ever learned, because with jiu-jitsu, it's all about submitting your opponent, locking them up, catching them with their arm out in a weird angle to where you can just lock them up and there's nothing they can do about it. There are many forms of self-defense out there. I know that I personally took wrestling, I took jiu-jitsu, I took judo, I took aikido, and I come to find out that aikido is the same style that Steven Seagal knew, and it's about using your opponent's momentum against them. I actually really appreciate aikido in the sense that I was a wrestler, because I had the offensive technique for being a wrestler, but then I was able to incorporate it with the aikido moves or judo, and judo is the fact that you can't attack with your legs and you can't attack your opponent's legs. So it's like, it's all throws. It's all like Japanese arm bars or swings or shucks, or a move that's called the Metzer, where you and your opponent basically do a fucking backflip. It's insane. I love it. And I wish my mom was still here, because she would totally be able to get in on this conversation, because she also was a proponent of self-defense and lifting weights and just being a strong person, just being a strong individual, okay? Like, I am a big proponent of individuation, okay? You gotta know your body, you gotta know your limits, and you gotta know your mind, and you gotta be willing to push that stuff to its limits. That's like those martial artists you see, or Bruce Lee in the movie with his 1-inch punch, being able to projectile somebody 15 feet back, okay? The trick to self-defense, the trick to a proper strike, does not come from your ability to hit your opponent. It comes from your ability to draw energy through your body into a shift in momentum, okay? It is a shift in mass, boom. But the most important part of self-defense is its defense. It is not offense. This is not self-offense. You don't just go out Cobra Kai style getting in fucking fights with people. That's just irresponsible. Howsoever, if you do get attacked, that's why it's called self-defense, okay? And if I'm not mistaken, the legal definition of self-defense is the use of force to protect oneself from an attempted injury by another. If justified, self-defense is a defense to a number of crimes and torts involving force, including murder, assault, and battery. So this brings me to the video that I posted about what happens when a person comes at another person with the intent to hurt, maim, or kill that person. What are you supposed to do? What was said in the video exactly, I'll play the video as a matter of fact, but what was said in the video exactly was when a woman chooses to come at a man as another man with the intent to hurt, maim, or kill them. What is a man supposed to do properly about this? And also, to what extent are women supposed to do it in the event that a man is coming at them, okay? But in all honesty, I would actually rather leave gender out of this completely and just talk about self-defense 100%, because self-defense knows no gender. Self-defense just knows self-defense. It knows where to strike the human body. It knows how to disarm and disable your opponent. It knows how to apply the proper force to the proper place in order to literally get your opponent to not want to do anything, to not want to continue, okay? It is a discouragement. It's like, are you sure you want to do that again? That's the point of self-defense. Because anybody who's thinking in their rational mind is not going to want to walk up to somebody and just punch them in the face. That's dumb. That's dumb. Humans don't do that. So I'm going to read some of these comments now. And I also, before I get into these comments, there will be a little snippet where this video plays. But you see, I got my comments here, so I can actually just read them off. And if anything, I'm actually going to edit them to where you can see the comments up here. So here we go. I have a question, and it's for both genders. I don't really give a shit who answers. I just have a question. And the question is kind of a triggering question, so please beware. My sister and I earlier were having a discussion about abusive partners earlier, and the topic got brought up about women who come at men like men, and what men are supposed to do properly, really. And I just happened to mention that if a woman comes at a man, and in that heat of the moment, the woman is convinced she can come at the man the same way another man comes at a man, with intention to hurt, maim, or kill, then in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that man defending himself. Then again, there's also the drawback of, because he's facing a woman, he doesn't need to go full bore. But at the same time, I was taught in martial arts that if somebody's coming at you with the intent of hurting you, maiming you, or killing you, you disarm, then disable. There are no fucking exceptions. You don't go out of your way to beat up people or beat up women or anything. Here we go. So the first comment was, you have every right to defend yourself if you need to, for sure. And that is from High Priestess Arcturian. I absolutely believe that. You have every right to life. And that is one thing that I think that is wrong with the new generation, is that they were not taught the sanctity of life. Okay, life is the one thing that we cannot create yet in the science lab. We can create death, we can create vaccines, we can create food, artificial food, we can do all that stuff. We can take a man to the moon. But yet we have yet able to create consciousness, all right? And that was from a lady too. This next one's from a lady, Amy Doucet. And if I mispronounce your name, I am so sorry. Doucet, D-O-U-C-E-T. I agree with you. I have a son and daughter, and I would be disappointed in both of them equally if they hit their partners first, the son more. I agree to that. I agree to that. We got to teach people not... That's why it's self-defense. It's never first. It's never first. Another lady, Ari Stats 143, says, I agree with you 100%. This gentleman here, Sonny Aiken, said, I briefly flicked through your comments to see if anyone got offended by you saying both genders. Ha 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 ha. And that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I love having open-ended debates, okay? I'm not here to disagree with anybody. I'm not here to piss anybody off. I am here to merely expose light onto the shadows that exist within society. That's what I'm good at. That's what I'm good at. This other gentleman here, Travis503, said, I was an MP, and it did not matter what gender somebody was. If they meant harm, they got dealt with the same as everybody else. I love that. I love that, because harm is harm. Violence is violence, all right? And this other person here said, I'm Curtsy, said, notice how he said both genders. Thank you. That's exactly right, because I don't discriminate. I hate everybody equally, okay? This other person said, I will now nor ever hit a woman first. Plain and simple. So my comment on this was, in addition, I asked my sister what a man is supposed to do in this situation, and she just could not give me a straight answer. Mind you, my sister also was an Olympic class wrestler, and she beat up dudes for a living. Okay? That's the whole premise of this conversation. Okay? Is she is a woman who can defend herself, unlike 95% of the women that are out there. And I don't understand why she isn't a proponent for self-defense like this too. The Amy Duquette lady said, I think guys have a right to restrain them until they calm down. That makes perfect sense. Let me give you an example. My mom, when she was still alive, she and I were arguing a little bit, and my sister and I thought that there was something happening because I went to give her a hug, and my sister just ran up from behind me out of nowhere and just football tackled me, and I slid like 10 feet. It was insane. She hit me hard enough to make me go, all right, I got you. But to her, it was a completely different situation than what it really was. And that's why you can't just jump to conclusions, okay? That's another thing of self-defense, is it teaches you how to take control of your own mind. Back to these comments. The next one here comes from Dr. Psycho. He says, martial artist for over 30 years. Combat defense has no gender. Yay, equality. I agree. This next person's Kim Nuno said, everyone has the right to defend themselves. I agree. Somebody else said, okay, Papa Geo Perkins, if a person ever comes at me in such a manner, they have unwittingly ended our relationship. I will restrain, zip tie, pack, and ghost on them. That's pretty straightforward. I like that. The next person, Your boy Tico said, look, I don't care what gender the person is, it just depends on the situation and how hard the fight is. If you cannot disarm and disable your opponent, then try your hardest to do so. But if it's not possible, do what you can to defend yourself. That's absolutely true. I think you all are starting to see a common pattern here. I can keep scrolling through these comments if you want. Here's another comment that I like from Lucky Little Alex that responds to the Your Boy Tico's comment about not really caring about what gender you are, just do what you can to defend yourself. This person says, I feel people who are that aggressive are not thinking rationally. I agree. Therefore, it will be easier to defend yourself if you know what to do. I definitely agree with that. Those who are not trained to overcome the anxieties of their mind, the fear of striking another opponent, of hurting yourself in the midst of things, the fear of like having confrontation, people who are not well versed in those things are going to freeze up. They're just going to freeze up. The next person said, where did you get your shirt? Only question. I was wearing my Rick and Morty alternative art shirt at the time. Love that damn shirt. And to answer that, I got it at Spencer's. And one of the last comments that I'll read, somebody said, nothing wrong with meeting force with force, but know that there's no win. There is no longer a threat. I definitely agree with that. So you all basically can see that when it comes down to a life or death situation, it does not matter what is going on. You have to protect yourself, okay? You have to protect yourself. So the next thing that I wanted to cover talks about those anxieties in dealing with confrontation with people, because I feel instead of giving you examples of what self-defense is, it's better for me to explain the concept, why it's important, how you can go about learning self-defense, like who you should turn to learn this kind of stuff from, and the what. Like, what is it? Okay, that's my goal for this video. You are never going to know what is going to happen next in your life, okay? You're never going to be able to predict it. If you can, you need to start buying lottery tickets because you're a future reader and you're somebody special. The point of self-defense, okay, mainly from my experience, has been the mental discipline of being able to not freak out in a situation, whether it's good or bad. It is complete mental dominance, okay, and control of your situation and yourself. That's because you are the body that's going through that situation, and if you are not under control of that body, then you are not going to be able to handle that situation at your maximum capacitance. Let me give you an example. When I was younger, the first time I ever went deer hunting, there is something in the South called buck fever, okay? And for those of you who know what buck fever is, you know that you get it when you go to raise the rifle and you're shaking because there's so much adrenaline going and you can't really like compose yourself. You have to take a moment to breathe. And that's why I am a big proponent of box breathing, because the box breathing is, to me, the best method that brings me back to that center of control. And it's like, okay, I am no longer freaking out, okay? It's a process. It's a process. Understanding that your body is like a finely tuned microchip and a grain of sand will shut it down is one of the keys, in my opinion, to being able to be a profound, not only martial artist, but just a human being in general. If you understand your body, you know what you can do, and you can set goals that are realistic. But there's a wonderful rule about that that says if your dreams aren't big enough to scare you, you're not dreaming big enough. I also agree with that. If your overarching dreams 5, 10, 15 years from now are not big enough that they completely rewrite the dynamic of your entire world, you need to start dreaming bigger. Because I love the saying that says, if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you're still out amongst the stars. I love that. That's so true. Don't ever forget how powerful of a being you really are. Don't ever forget that your mind puts mental barriers on you to make you forget how powerful of a being you truly are. And please, don't ever forget that there's people like me out here who are trying to help encourage you to become the best possible version of you that you can every day. It seems like a struggle, but it's not. It's just like lifting weights. The more often you lift that weight, the less often it's going to hurt, okay? And the more weight repetitions that you can do, your body, mind, and brain are the same way, okay? The more mental focus and practice that you give something, reading a book, drawing, painting, any of that kind of stuff, the more mental focus that you put into an exercise, including martial arts, perfecting your body, training your body, all of that stuff, the more attention that you put into it, the faster it grows faster. Okay, that's what I call the growing faster principle. There is a curve of mastery that exists. all right? That you go to the very tip top of Mount Stupid, okay? It is naivety in mastery. You get to the top of this bitter peak in the beginning, and you're just like, yes, I love this. I feel like I can do it all. I can do anything. And then all of a sudden, you are presented with the daunting realization of exactly how hard and how long it's going to take you to master this. That is called the curve of mastery, okay? Look it up. It's a graph. It's a beautiful graph. And if you once you understand that, you actually, while you're going through learning something, martial arts, sculpting, it doesn't matter. When you understand the curve of mastery, you can actually start to realize where in the curve of mastery you are based on the skills that you have and the current events that you're going through, okay? You can tell whether you have hit Mount Stupid or not. You can tell whether you're in the Valley of Despair. You can tell whether you're in the positive climb, where you're past all of the beginning stuff again. Okay, you're past the initial point of when you hit Mount Stupid and you dipped, but you have gotten back to the point, exactly the same level where the top of Mount Stupid was, and now you are elevating past that. Okay, to the stars, to the stars. Everything, your body is magic. If you do it enough times, if you do something enough times, it will remember it. It will make it second nature. It's like magic. Don't ever forget that, okay? So let's get to the why martial arts. When I was really young, I got bullied a lot, primarily in elementary school. When I worked up to where I was actually in middle and high school in the military academy that I went to, there really wasn't much bullying going on, but there were cliques and, you know, the jocks and the nerds and the wrestlers and the football players and the basketball players. Like, each person had their own niche of people. But when I was really young, I realized I don't want to have a niche. I want to do a lot of things. So that was my thing. I never wanted to have a niche. So I did wrestling. I did basketball. I was point guard. I played golf. I did lacrosse. I played tennis. I did it all. I did it all. Because I wanted a universally sound mind and a sound body. That's what I figured out when I was really young. And I also figured out that I needed to start taking martial arts very seriously, because that was the one gateway that led me personally to a true mastery of my body, okay? Martial arts enhanced my wrestling, which was enhanced by the judo, which was enhanced by the jiu-jitsu, which was also enhanced by the Greco-Roman wrestling that I did, because judo and Greco-Roman are basically the same style of fighting, where you can't attack your opponent's legs. I actually talked about that earlier in this video. But the main why of self-defense is because of the unpredictability of life. You don't go out searching for confrontation. That's not how this works. But confrontation will always seem to find you one way or another. Every person on this planet eventually will have to deal with a fight. I don't know of anybody that has never been in a fight. But I do know of a few people, but I've never met them in person, who claim that they've never been in a fight, you know. But the whole getting in a fight thing, that's all cliche. It's not about that. You just need mastery over your own body, okay? Don't ever try to be better than anybody else. Let that person be better than themselves. Don't ever try to be better than anybody else. That was also another core fundamental law that martial arts taught me, is that every body is different, which means that every diet is different, which means that every pathway to their enlightenment, to your enlightenment, to hers and his and everybody's is different, okay? That's why in enlightenment, you can't force enlightenment down somebody else's throat. You can tell them all of these great revelations, but it is only through the experience of doing these things with which you get the true intellectual understanding, and you're just like, oh shit, okay, I get it now. Just like being thrown on a wrestling mat. You have to be thrown the first time, like really hard, to learn to fall. That's actually one of the first things in martial arts that you learn, is how to fall. You are going to fall. But if you can learn to fall properly, you can minimize the amount of self-damage you take, and then in turn maximize the amount of force that you can output, okay? So this video has gotten a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but that's okay, because this is all important, and I'm talking about something that I'm very passionate about, and I have faith that y'all will glean some positive information from this and will start to do your own research about this. Now, please forgive me that I don't have a wrestling mat here to be able to show you some examples. I don't have a dummy that I can show you some stuff. I would love to, but that's not where my channel is currently at, but we will get there one day. We will get there. So just a quick recap of this episode. Know thine body, okay? Learn thine body. Master thine mind. Because where the mind points, the body will go. And where the spirit attracts, the mind opens, okay? And in turn, the body receives. I love that. Self-defense will not only save your life, but it will also save the lives of those that are around you. And an interesting cliche just came to my mind as well. It could even save the person attacking you. It really could. Simply because they don't know what they're doing, and you, the trained person, can keep them from not only hurting you, but hurting themselves. Interesting thought. And another one of the things that martial arts has taught me is living from love. When you understand that everybody around you, everything, every puppy, every cat, dog, it doesn't matter, all of it is a mirrored reflection of us as spirits, okay? And you practice self-love of, I wouldn't want to do harm to other people because I wouldn't want them to do harm on me, because you understand that things like karma are real. It really brings you to a profound place of peace because you understand that violence is not the first answer. That actually brings up an interesting quote from Confucius. Confucius say, "Only when a mosquito is on man's balls does he understand there is another way but violence." So let that be a reminder, okay? The harm that we do to other people is like smacking yourself in the nuts. Sorry to use such a crude term, but it kind of is. And it's only going to come back to smack you in the nuts. So martial arts teaches us about that. A sound mind and a sound body. You take discipline. You understand that you do not seek confrontation. If it comes to you, you are prepared with a toolbox to be able to disarm and disable your opponent. And not only can you disarm and disable your opponent, but you will save lives and you'll make friendships. Every fight that I've ever been in, me and the person were friends afterwards. It's the weirdest thing. So I highly, highly, highly recommend everybody to start looking into some form of self-defense that meets your criteria, just because of the unpredictability of the world. Don't ever leave it up to random chance. Don't ever leave it up to chance. Minimize. Okay, so there is a wonderful saying that comes to my mind about this too. They say that luck is is minimized skill, but they say that skill is minimized luck. Think about that. The more skill you have at something, the less luck you need for it to turn out exactly how you want. But the less skill you have in something, the more luck you need for it to turn out how you want. It's a dichotomy. It's a study of opposites. I love it. And by studying yourself, you actually learn to enhance your martial arts capability even more because you understand what your limits are and thus what can be done to people, okay? It's all cyclical. It's all cyclical. It all revolves back onto itself. It's wonderful. To truly understand something is to be able to perceive patterns. Don't ever forget. So the recap, do it. That's my recap. Do it. Do it because it's fun. Do it because it makes your life a little bit safer, and it takes the worry and fear and anxiety out of your life of, oh, well, what happens? What if this happens? Well, you're prepared. Don't worry about it. But the main point is that sense of self-security, the not worrying about the what ifs anymore. So I love you. I hope you guys gleaned some information from this episode. I'm Vander, and I'll see y'all next time.